From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is The Hub with Wang Guan.
Hello there and welcome to The Hub. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Back in 1984, a movie called Breaking set off the street dance craze here in China. But it was just a flash in the pan, and street culture did not really take root in the country. It all changed in the turn of the century when street culture took center stage on television. The most famous example is Street Dance of China, a show that now draws millions of fans. There are currently more than 3 million active street dancers in the country, and street fashion boasts 200 million followers. Earlier, we talked to famous top performers, including the pioneers of locking, none other than Tony Gogo and his sons, also known as the Gogo brothers, and also to Chinese breaking veteran Yang Kai. They tell me about their passion for street dancing, and also about their sense of belongings that transcends cultures and borders.
My name is Tony Gogo, Anthony Lewis, born in Texas, raised in California on the west side. And I'm a locker, I'm a jazz dancer, a tap dancer, all styles really. I love all styles of street. I've been doing locking now for 50 years. And it's been a great experience, of course. You meet many entities, many great people. You learn many things, yes. So it's been very rewarding. The evolution of locking, yes. It started out very slow. And when I say slow, I really mean slow. You know, it's like a 1 point and 1 look or what. But now what I've done is I've been able to work with the youth for at least 3 generations to 4 generations now. And I try to always give them something fresh and work on their timing, their speed, their character, you know, to help the dance, you know, evolve. And right now, it's one of the fastest dance on the planet. It's, you know, between breaking and locking, the fastest moves come out of them 2 styles, I think. And of course, crumping now. Yeah, crumping has the speed, agility too. Yes.
Tony Gogo brought locking to many countries, but he's always had a soft spot for China, and he has held numerous master classes over the years. He has witnessed firsthand Chinese dancers rise to fame. In 2019, he won the Just a Debut Locking Championship in France with his Chinese student Locking J.
Of course, China. I've seen over the past 20 years now, you know, it's amazing what I've seen China do with the street dance culture. And I really appreciate that. I'm honored to be here because they really helped us to preserve it, help kids grow, yes. But I have noticed that more people are becoming interested in it, I can see. I'm amazed at what I've seen, really. They've called me to events with 2,000 kids. You know, it's amazing to me. It's like something I've never seen before, nothing I've done before. And China has given me the opportunity to work with these mass numbers. And it's a big difference, believe me, than other countries that really don't support the culture, if I may say, but use the culture. But China has really showed me that they care, and to see that many kids in an event up on stage really showing their art and movement and timing and feeling is beautiful. What else can you ask for?
It's all about passing down those godlike skills. The Gogo brothers followed on their dad's footsteps and have displayed their unique talent around the world. But this second generation of performers has also come up with innovative signature moves, and for them, the sky is the limit.
僕たちゴーゴーブラザーズです。僕が兄のレイです。弟のユウです。まあね、ロックダンスやってる皆さんも。
Our father is well known amongst locking dancers. He is a member of the Lockers and belongs to the first generation of the Gogo brothers. He brought locking to Japan and has created a new style of locking. We grew up under his influence and fell in love with dancing. We have been practicing since childhood. We are thankful for what our father taught us and because he brought us into the world of locking. Now, as the second generation of Gogo brothers, we are also devoted to promoting locking amongst the world. We will continue to promote this art form and let more people know about the magic of dance. Let more people enjoy the fun of dancing. China has taken concrete measures to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to those measures, we had the chance to participate to Season 4 of Street Dance of China, where dancers from different countries gather here in China. We had the opportunity to get in touch with dancers from all over the world. It's very important for us dancers to communicate with each other so that we can learn from others and create new shows.
Though we don't speak the same language, we can communicate with other people through gestures and moves. Dance is borderless.
All of us really enjoyed this experience, and we had a great time here.
あとなんかボディーラングイッジとかもなんか多いよね。まあそういう面白みもありますね。なんて言うんだろう。まあダンスのコミュニケーションみたいな感じですよね。
Dancing is a universal language. Dancers may come from different cultures and speak different languages, but they belong to a tightly knit community where dancing is their own way of communicating with one another.
像我第一次出去的时候，我基本上英语都很不好，就只能说 say hello 那种感觉。
My name is Yang Kai. I come from Chengdu. I'm a breakdancer. I've been practicing breakdancing since 2002. I couldn't speak any English when I first went abroad for a street dance competition in 2006. The only English sentence I knew was hello. However, I feel that dancers could understand each other with their moves and gestures, even though we were not speaking the same language. Dancing is how we communicate with each other. Before I went abroad, I thought I was the best dancers in my city, and I couldn't wait to see the performances of other talented dancers. I really improved a lot after the competition. I saw the live performances of my idols. It really helped me to set more goals and have a clearer direction. Therefore, it is very important for dancers to communicate with each other. Without communication, you will never improve. It's just like a cipher when B-boys and B-girls form a circle, and one after another step in the circle and dance. You can learn from each other through this type of communication.
小心火烛。
I have been committed to combining Chinese elements into street dance. In my opinion, combining local elements will help innovate the street dance. I feel so proud when I'm performing moves that incorporate Chinese cultures to foreign audiences. I feel very confident. We're not just imitating, but we are trying to invent and innovate in the street dance in our own way.
就觉得这我们没有模仿，我们是在改变，我们是在创新。
But as you move around the earth and you see these different countries and these different people, they're all, to me, doing the same thing. We have everybody doing events. They're doing the same kind of events. They're doing the same kind of dances. They're winning the same kind of awards. So it's just all one thing. It's all one love. People who really don't understand what we are and what we do, that causes a little division sometimes in some things that we do. But overall, it's a one love thing. It's for, everybody.
Well, it's all one love for dance. For more on that, let's turn to our guests. We have CGTN commentator Helen Han. Madam Han is also president of Beijing Belt and Road Cooperative Community in Beijing. We also have David Moser, associate professor at Beijing Capital Normal University. Welcome to both of you to the Hub on CGTN. Let me turn to you first, David. Street culture was born in the U.S. and they spread like a bushfire throughout the world, spawning different styles and trends. We've heard from Yang Kai, the Chinese dancer over there, saying how he's converting the American style into the Chinese style. Do you think street culture has somehow gone global and lost its maybe original, more rebellious appeal?
Yeah, that's kind of a trend in all kinds of alternative activities, arts. Even rap, hip hop, all those things had a kind of a reputation as being very underground and kind of subversive. But then once it becomes worldwide, then it becomes a style that everyone can participate in. And then it becomes something that you can even show on CGTN, for example. So, I mean, that's a kind of a very common pathway for any new art form to take.
I don't think it's only on CGTN. I think it's on the CCTV Mandarin channels, even the Lunar New Year Spring Festival galas, if I remember correctly. David, what do you think makes it so unique and so attractive when you talk about street dance? Why is it so globally appealing to so many? 3 million active street dancers in China. That's not a small number.
I think there are a lot of reasons. We've seen, music also is popular, filmmaking, but I think street dancing is something where it has a very low threshold. All you really need is a street and some good tennis shoes, probably. It doesn't cost anything. It's easy to imitate. It's visual. It has nothing to do with language per se. And I think that people, it's instantly compelling for people who don't know anything about it. It's a little bit like magic. People can't understand this locking. How in the world do they do that? But or maybe more like juggling. It's a skill that you can learn pretty quickly, and then you can amaze your friends. It's a universal thing. So I think it's because it's easy to get your foot in the door, and then of course the sky's the limit. You can advance it as high as you want.
Right, Helen. Let me turn to you. Street dancing is becoming very popular in China. What do you think explains its popularity?
Oh, I'm so glad to see that street dancing is getting more and more popular in China. I think the globalization will finally come to the doorstep of China, especially for street dancing, which was thought to be originally from the United States. But in my opinion, I think there are so many similarities between the Chinese art performances and the street dancing in many ways. So it is so natural for the street dancing, so-called street dancing, to come into China finally. Because when I watched some original traditional paintings of the Chinese culture, I found with a happy surprise that even back in the Tang Dynasty, there are a lot of art performances that can reflect some similarities of street dancing. Just as David put it, it needs street or it needs public space for people, especially young people, to express their feelings, to show their eagerness to get more sociable or to have interactions with the other young people from the same age, same group, same communities. So it is always a very popular art performances from China and also from the United States. So it's now street dancing, the modern street dancing, if I may call it, has finally come into China and getting more and popular. I think it's reflects a way back to our traditional Chinese culture to show that deep down that Chinese young people love to use this kind of performances to interact with the similar age people and to show their feelings, to show their eagerness to interact with the society, and also the globalization shows that their eagerness to interact with the world.
I think it's, you cannot emphasize enough the thing about globalization. The other day I was attending a chorus singing where Turandot, a famous Western opera, was using jasmine flower, a very popular Chinese folk music. The two sounds basically were merging into one. Helen, why, in what ways do you think the Chinese dancers have added to the street dancing culture around the world? Because like Yang Kai said, the Chinese dancing are unique in their own right.
Yes, I like what he said, and I totally agree with what he said. I think Chinese culture is regarded as a comparatively passive or conservative in many people's views. But in my opinion, Chinese culture can also be very aggressive or inclusive. So street dancing is a perfect combination of this kind of inclusivity or creativity plus the personality to show the young people that they can be very innovative, especially in the modern age. And also, of course, they can be very personal because you see the very different gestures and the moves from very different dancers. So they have their very unique different moves along with different music they chose. So you can see that this can be very personal, or a street dance can show their different personalities. So this is a very interesting feature of street dancing. As with regard to this creativity and the inclusivity, this also shows that it is about the age of the whole China after almost over 40 years of opening up and the reform. The Chinese young people are using every way to embrace the world, embrace the information, embrace the new techniques, embrace the ways of communicate with the same age of the young people worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. After spending 8 years in America, I was very surprised to find out how many dancing studios that have popped up in Beijing, the capital city. So David, the Olympics have tried to bring sports closer to ordinary folks. Skateboarding, for example, is already an Olympic sport. We saw that at the Tokyo Olympics a few months ago. And breakdancing will make its debut at the Paris Summer Games in 2024. I mean, who would have thought, right? How do you feel about all that?
Yes, actually, all these art forms have a sort of an informal origin. If you look at basketball, if you look at football, all of these international sports now started just on a field, an improvised courtyard or something like that. And then once they become universal, then of course they need to be standardized. So the same goes with skateboarding. My daughter used to skateboard and her friends used to skateboard, but it was just formless kind of totally improv. Now there are some standard moves, and you need to have some standards in order to evaluate the performance of the athlete. It can't just be just everyone has their own style, everyone has their own moves. So yeah, why not? Breakdancing is the same way. I remember that movie you talked about. It was called Pili Wu, I think, during the 80s.
Pili Wu.
And that was sort of before there was a world standard. People didn't really know exactly, how it was going to. And now it's become a world standard, and it's become a standard that, as we just said, something that all young people can participate in and alter the style and continue it forward.
But do you think standardization will somehow sacrifice creativity? Many would argue that street dancing is all about improvising, socializing with people, and being original and innovative. Now that you have a set of rules, rigid rules perhaps, to get high scores.
Well, we just saw those videos. I don't think it's going to stop the creativity. Maybe the official contests have a way of doing that. But those people on the street are not sort of beholden to contests and to rigid rules. They're just having fun. And so they're going to continue creating new kinds of forms and mixing and matching, doing hybrid forms, because it's something that they love. They're not going to have their creativity curtailed by the existence of these other standards. But on the other hand, the fact that there are standards and there are competitions actually is good for the art form, because it helps sort of stabilize it in the public mind, and it sort of makes it acceptable, and it gives it a sort of a public image that people can relate to. So the creativity won't start, but it's going to always be an underground thing. It's always a bottom-up process. Creativity is always that way.
Helen, what do you think? Do you think including the street dancing into the elite Olympic competitive levels will increase creativity, popularity, or cost creativity?
Yeah, for the popularity, certainly it is, given the market size, the awareness of the modern Olympics. It certainly is. I think at the very beginning of the street breakdancing and skateboarding were included in the Olympic Games. At the very beginning days, probably it will sacrifice a little bit about the creativity, because the participants will try to reach and meet the criteria and the standards set by the Olympics. But given the spirit of the Olympics, on one side it is higher, faster, stronger. With these features, skateboarding and breakdancing, I think they are perfect fit for the modern Olympics. And on the other side, the spirits of Olympics also mentions about the importance of participation rather than winning, or the enjoying the process rather than getting the gold medal, because it also already includes the best performance of each field, like including both amateurs and the professionals. So these high standards, at the end of the day, will encourage the creativity as well as maintaining the popularity.
Right, David, you've been in China for the longest time. I can't remember how many decades. You're what we call a China hand, by all measures. Are cultural interactions easier with a common language like dance, in your opinion? Do you have personal stories to illustrate how, for example, street dance brings people from different cultures together?
Well, sure, we've also already seen some examples in those videos, but yes, I remember maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there was a new form of street dancing. I think it was called hip hop dancing. And I took a group of American students to what that time was a migrant school, a school for migrant children, and to sort of observe and to interact with the kids. And at first it was very awkward, because my students couldn't really speak Chinese, and the students could speak a little English, but they were very shy. And so we had an activity, and everyone kind of were in separate camps, the Americans here and the Chinese here. And then one kid got up and did a sort of a hip hop dance. And the transition was astounding. Immediately, the two groups came together. They started showing each other what they could do, sharing moves, as we call them. And even though the language was not there, as so many of the people you just interviewed in the film said, it's an international language, and they were laughing and relating to each other, sharing information and sharing the fun of the art with absolutely no cultural boundaries whatsoever. So yes, those kinds of things. All kinds of those art forms are actually miracles of cross-cultural communication, because they break down the barriers of culture and language. It becomes something both sides, both groups can take part in and take pleasure in and take joy in.
Helen, how do you feel about all this? Because your work involves studying different cultures, has a lot to do with politics and policies, but also you deal with people from different cultures every day.
If there is one art performances that can break the barriers of the so-called politics or the social differences, I think the arts, music, included, dancing included, can certainly be a perfect bridge to connect the different cultures. And this is the way that we need to appreciate. I remember vividly when I was a child, when I was with my parents in the parks, visiting the parks, I actually saw some different kinds of, today may be called street dancing, but that time maybe just the young people getting there, gathering there to do some different performances, including music, including dancing. So when I saw the street dancing and even the reality shows on Chinese TV, I was like, it was not a new form. It is just a very interesting remembering of the old memories and a combination of the old and new. So I think this kind of different kind of arts can certainly bridge the differences between the culture, between the social differences, as well as the political disputes.
Definitely. I still remember back in the day when I was a teenager learning English, I saw Michael Jackson for the very first time performing on stage, and his moonwalk, the thrill, the chill that I got, sending me goosebumps, that really made me want to study in the United States one day. Talking about soft power or pop culture, David, China says it wants to project its soft power so that the world can understand the Chinese and the Chinese culture better. How do you think should China use its cultural power to really make a bigger impact in the rest of the world, especially in Western societies where the perception of China, like it or not, is getting increasingly negative?
Well, I think there's something that people should be careful about here, because soft power, like street dance and like some of the other forms of soft power, are really, as I said, a bottom-up process. You can't just put money into it or force it or just kind of encourage it, and you certainly can't create it from the top down. It sort of emerges. If you look at American soft power, which is very powerful, and you would count street dancing among that. All of those forms like rock and roll, jazz, blues, hip hop, street dancing, they all came from, basically, it really came from the African American culture. All of those did. And those were all bottom up. They became an art form, and they became a sort of a viral kind of activity long before anyone thought of monetizing it, putting it on, putting a brand on it. And so I think China actually has a lot of things that could be amazing soft power. In fact, China does have a lot of soft power, but it has to first come from the people. It has to come from the bottom up. And once it's there and once it's exciting and interesting, then you can label it as soft power and put it out there and put money behind it. But I think people shouldn't try to, pour billions of dollars into something called soft power, thinking that will create it. It doesn't work that way. It works from the bottom up.
Helen, what do you think? I mean, David has put up a very interesting argument, bottom up versus top down. How can China better project its soft power?
Yeah, in terms of approach, I agree with David regarding bottom up rather than top on down. But I think soft power versus hard power are two concepts introduced from the West. So I'd rather use your word regarding this kind of Chinese culture to be introduced into the world much better. There are a lot of opportunities, but there are certainly more challenges than opportunities. From day one, I think every Chinese can be an ambassador of the Chinese culture to have more awareness and even the better education to learn about our Chinese culture better and to have this kind of awareness to introduce the Chinese culture better when the door is probably reopened after COVID. In the past, the Chinese in the world maybe we do shopping. We are shopping the world when we go abroad to have some scenery trips, and when we go abroad to have some education, we study abroad. The main purpose to study from the West. But how about we introducing the Chinese culture as one of our missions when we go abroad, and but this. To reach this, we need to better equip ourselves with our Chinese culture, this ever long-lasting Chinese culture. So even for me, I have
Helen, that's all the time we have. I'm sorry. I know you have been doing just that. Thank you for all your work. David, thank you for coming on our show. Thanks to both of you. And that would do it for this edition of The Hub on CGTN. Bye for now.